James, we'll head now to our Michigan Man top 10. And at number 10, a guy we talked about earlier, it's Mason Cole.
Finally we got an offensive lineman on this. I think maybe week 2 we had somebody. I don't remember why, just to be nice. But Cole's on there, Tom, and I wish we had another year of this guy. Unfortunately, this is his last season, but it seems like Michigan always has one offensive lineman. You just wish would have redshirted or something like that. And Cole is the guy this year. Next year it'll be Ben Bredesen. You wish he had one more year, et cetera, and beyond. So like Cole, hopefully he keeps it up, but good to see him on there.
He is number 10 on our Michigan Man top 10, the best Michigan players for this year's Wolverine squad. We'll head now to number 9, another new appearance, James, then a guy we talked about earlier, Karan Higdon.
Yeah, and Tom, he could rocket up the list. He could be in the top 2 or 3 if he has another big game against Penn State. The reason he's only 9 is because this is his first appearance. You don't have one game and jump up against guys who have been in the top 5, top 6, top 7 all season, bringing A+ level games for half a year. So he has a chance to move up very quickly, but he's got to do it more than 1 week.
Do you think he's going to remain the star back for Michigan, and is he going to produce again like he did against Indiana, 25 for 200?
I think if they stick to the game plan of run the ball on the ground, I bet he'll get over 125 this week. And if he does that, I think Michigan will have multiple red zone opportunities, which is actually tough for me to say because I sometimes it's like how would we score? I can't conceive of a possibility where Michigan scores a point at this point. But if it's Higdon on the ground, and he showed some good breakaway speed, I didn't know he had, Tom. So got to keep him in there. I think he'll go over 100 this week, and Michigan will be able to keep it close and have a chance.
Head now to number 8 on our Michigan Man top 10. It's a cornerback, David Long. Hint, hint, not the highest rated cornerback on this list. But, James, I've been very impressed by how well he's done in coverage.
Great. I mean, Michigan has had very few balls go deep on them this year. Phrasing, and really the only long touchdowns were against the safeties. So Long, as a true sophomore, a guy who didn't get much play last year, I think he's done phenomenally well. Michigan has not missed a beat when it comes to their quarterbacks. Cornerbacks.
Yeah, I know that Peyton Ramsey, Indiana's quarterback, isn't the greatest quarterback, but Simi Cobbs is a talented player at receiver. He had nothing going against Michigan's defense. 4 receptions for 39 yards. I think that speaks to how good these young corners have been for Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Head now to number 7 on our Michigan Man top 10. A pretty steady presence in the top 10. Khaleke Hudson, the linebacker safety hybrid, playing the Viper spot, or at least for a portion of this year.
I forget about Hudson sometimes these last few games, but he'll pop up every once in a while. I'm like, oh man, Hudson, he's having a decent year. So I really expect a little more out of him, Tom. I thought after the first 2 games he'd be up there in the top 2 or 3, but no bad plays out of him. Not really getting the interceptions or anything, or the sacks that some of his counterparts are. But altogether, he's having a heck of a year filling in for Jabril Peppers. I'd have to say he's actually having a better year on defense than Peppers has ever had at Michigan.
I actually agree with you there. Head now to number 6 on our Michigan Man top 10. This is a guy who I think had peaked as high as 2 or 3 at one point. It's Chase Winovich, but the sacks and tackles for loss have kind of slowed down after a really hot start.
Yeah, he just gets after the quarterback, Tom. He maybe probably takes a little he gets a little bit of an advantage over other players because he's got Hurst and Gary right next to him, and more the focus is on those guys. So he's left to his own volition to kind of get to the quarterback. But he's having a great year in the top 6. And Tom, this defensive line, I'll just give Michigan credit. They had him last year. They have him this year. Harbaugh's guys have developed defensive linemen, and I think Michigan's got one of the top 5 D-lines in the country, if not top 1 or 2.
Head now into the top 5 on our Michigan Man top 10. And James, it's good that he's on here, but also not good because you never want your kicker to be one of your top 5 players.
Tom, I was in some conversations with some folks this week, and they challenged me to disagree with them that if Michigan gives away Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, okay, who is it? Hurst, Gary, maybe Lavert Hill, defense, Devin Bush. Who's their Offensive Player of the Year? It is Quinn Nordin at this point. He's the best player on your offense. Sad, right? But it's as a fact. And I don't know what's going to change unless Karan Higdon just gets 6 more games of 100 yards or more.
I totally agree. This is the highest, if you can call him an offensive player, the highest offensive guy in the Michigan Man top 10 for this week. it's good that he's been consistent, but you never want your kicker being a top 5 player for you.
Absolutely. It's sad, but he's come on great. I think he's your All-American. I think one of the All-American polls we talked about this week had him as the first-team All-American kicker.
I couldn't agree more. Heading out to number 4 as we get into a heavy defensive portion here. Cornerback Lavert Hill. He's had some really impressive games against UC, for example. He was also very good against Indiana. He has stepped up and replaced a very talented group of corners at Michigan with almost, no downside or no, step down.
Yeah, Lavert Hill, he's turned into a star, Tom. I don't know if there's any step down from guys who are playing in the NFL like Jordan Lewis right now. So the fact that Michigan has almost all of these guys coming back on next year's team is such, if you look at it, except for Hurst and Cole, I think every other one of these guys is back next year. It speaks if Michigan gets any sort of quarterback play, they might have a chance to have a special season next year.
Heading out to number 3 on our Michigan Man Top 10. And at number 3, a guy that Coach Harbaugh talked about a little bit earlier in our opening for the show, if you've been with us for the entire time, Rashan Gary, who has been just double-teamed and shit-blocked repeatedly. So Gary this year. Go ahead, James.
I wish Gary had better stats because I don't think people nationally appreciate how good of a year he's having, and he even's getting ripped down by Michigan fans. But he comes at me. Time you look at the defensive line. If you just look at Rashan Gary every single play, you will just be like, "Holy crap, this guy is amazing!" Right? He's just so fast, but he just he hasn't got the sacks or the interceptions, fumble recoveries that you're looking for, and he's been kind of overshadowed by two that everyone seems to be talking about this week.
Yeah, we'll head now to number 2, a guy that's actually been number 1 or at least top 2 for pretty much, I think, the entire week, or season, excuse me, Devin Bush, who's just been a tackling machine for Michigan.
Yeah, Bush is amazing. He's the best Michigan linebacker, I think, in probably since 2006 with David Harris. That if I'm really being objective, he is. And he might be having a better season than Harris did in 06. So love what I'm seeing out of Bush. He is not your defensive MVP at this point because we got another guy, but I couldn't imagine a linebacker coming out and having a better start to his first 6 games as a starter than Bush has had.
He's just done a little bit of everything this year. You can see it in the stat sheet. The 6 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. He's actually been pretty good in coverage as well with 5 pass breakups. Everything Michigan has asked Devin Bush to do, he's exceeded at.
Absolutely. Yep. Love it. Glad he's on the team. Glad he didn't pick Florida State.
Yes. Heading out to number 1, and at number 1, it is Maurice Hurst. We mentioned him at the top of the show. The past couple games for Hurst, he has been just disruptive as can be all over the field and in the backfield.
He's been phenomenal, Tom. I can't stress enough how good he's played, and then also just wonder how you get so much better from year 3 to year 4 or year 2 to year 3. Like, he was non-existent in the Brady Hoke days when he's like a freshman, and then he didn't do much in 15 and didn't do a ton in 16 until the second half of the year, and now all of a sudden Pro Football Focus has him as the number 1 player in the country according to performance on the field and actually how you grade out. Had a field goal block, Tom, terrorizing the quarterback. Mo Hurst, and I was really surprised on some of these preseason, mid-season All-American teams. I was surprised some other guys like Devin Bush didn't get any play on that, but it was no surprise what I meant to say that Hurst was pretty much on every single one I saw as a defensive first-team All-American.
All right, for those of you just now tuning in, we'll take you through the Michigan Man Top 10 before we get into some rumors and some Penn State talk. At number 10 is Mason Cole, the offensive lineman, coming up perhaps his best game of the season. Karan Higdon checks in at number 9. At number 8 is David Long, the cornerback. Number 7 is Khaleke Hudson, the safety/linebacker Viper player is the exact role. Chase Winovich checks in at number 6. At number 5 is the kicker Quinn Nordin, who's been fantastic this year. Lavert Hill checks in at number 4, another cornerback. That's a promising sign for that Michigan defense. Number 3 is Rashan Gary, facing a plethora of double teams this season. At number 2 is Devin Bush, the talented young linebacker. And then at number 1 is Maurice Hurst, the defensive lineman, on track to be a first-round pick in this year's NFL draft.